Hi everybody, this is Mitchell back with another episode of Slammed Outdoors, and in today's episode I'm going to be showing you guys how to rig a punch rig, which is pretty much just a souped up Texas rig, and we're going to roll right into it. So the first thing you need to do when you're rigging a punch rig is you need to make sure you have a rod, reel, and line that are suitable for this technique, because for this you're pretty much going to be throwing a big Texas rig. So what you're going to want is you're going to want a rod that throws at least half an ounce at a minimum and can throw upwards of at least 3/4 of an ounce, preferably closer to an ounce, ounce and a quarter, ounce and a half. Most of these will be anywhere between rated for medium heavy, heavy, or extra heavy. And this is done because you need to pull bass out of really heavy cover. The reel on this is one of the old Bantam Corrados. It's a 200 size reel. Probably the recommended size I would say for this would be a 200 or a 300 size. And on this I have braid, and the wonderful thing about braid is it has a much higher breaking strain than mono or fluoro. So on this I actually have 50-pound braid, which is heavy for most applications, but for this it's really not. So that's going to be the rod, the reel, and the line. And the wonderful thing about this is one of the rare opportunities for you to throw a straight braid. Very rarely can you get away with this, but when you're using a punch rig, most people throw a straight braid. So the pieces that you're going to need once you get your rod figured out are you're going to need a bobber stop, which you can get in like a 10-pack for like $2. You're going to need some straight shank flipping hooks. Some people call it a G-Lock Finesse. It's any heavy cover worm hook. I'm using a 3/0, and it has a little keeper on it, and that's going to be essential for flipping heavy cover. For a bait for it, it's really up to your own personal preference. You can throw a craw, you can throw a bug, but you're going to want to throw something that's pretty streamlined. So, for example, that I'm going to be throwing this on is called the Creature Hog. It's a max scent bait by Berkley, and it is really streamlined, and that's so it can get through that heavy cover without catching on a lot of the extra grass and pads. Probably the most crucial piece you're going to need is a weight. Now, you're going to need a bullet weight to throw this on like a Texas rig. And ideally you'll want a tungsten weight. It's a little better for the environment, but it's also much more dense, so it's not as wide, and because of that it makes it easier to use and it doesn't get caught on as much stuff. Now you can throw either just a straight bullet weight like this, or what I'm going to be demonstrating in this video and what I'm going to be fishing it is it's a bullet weight with a skirt attached to it. So Strike King calls it the slither rig. And effectively, this is just a streamlined jig that won't get caught in the heavy stuff. So this is what I'm going to be fishing with. So I'll demonstrate the process for attaching all this. So the first step in this process is you're going to want to start with your bobber stop or your bead or whatever you want to call it. And all you need to do with this, so they come in like a 10-pack, you just want to get it so you can just get your line through the eye of it, and then just pull it through like that. So your line is going to be around your little bead, and then you just want to slide it on there. And then if you pull the line off like that, it's just on there. And then the nice thing is, if you get the right size for this, it shouldn't slip much on your line without you physically moving it. So just for starting here, I'm going to slide this way up the line. It'll make it easier to tie everything else on. So the next piece is I'm going to get the slither rig out. So this is going to be the second part of your rig. But now that it's out, that's what it looks like. So it's just a tungsten weight. There's just a skirt that's attached to it. And this gives it more of a jig profile than a straight Texas rig. All you need to do is you want to take your braid, again, no leader knots or anything, just straight braid. Push it through the eye on top of the bullet weight until you can find it on the other end. Once you can find it on the other end, you just slide it up like that, and that part's on there. And again, what I was talking about before is I'm going to push this down more towards the head. The head won't push your bead. You got the right size. So this way your head won't slide up and get caught in the grass, which is the beauty of the punch rig. All right, so now that we've got our jig on there and we've got our bead on there, the next step is you're going to want to attach your hook. So you can really tie any knot that you want with this, in my opinion. If you throw this a lot, and you're really worried about beating up on your knot, you can throw what's called a snell knot. You can find a lot of videos on how to do that on YouTube. Effectively, it's like a fisherman's knot, but instead of the knot being on top of your eye, it's below your eye. So this way your weight coming crashing down on it won't damage it. Personally, I don't fish this that much, and I'll just retie it a lot if I need to, so I'm just going to tie the Palomar. Covered this in a couple videos. I'll link it again, just so you guys want to see it. This is my kind of safety knot here. If I need to make sure I don't lose something, this is what I'm going to tie. It's a little harder to tie with this big skirt on here. That's why whenever I'm tying this little tip, just to make this easier, it's easier to push the skirt way up, like higher than you'll fish it, and then just push it back down at the end. Just because the problem is right when it's on top of the hook, it makes it really hard to tie. So now that's tied on there. I'm going to cut that tag in a little shorter, but I'll do that in a minute. So it should sit on there like that. Can't really see the hook, you know, it's there. And then we're going to push the bead down here to more of where I'm going to have it. So I'm going to want it with a Texas rig. A lot of guys like that, it's called pegging it. They like to peg it farther up, but with this you don't want it to fall very far. So I'm going to peg it almost just right on top where it is. So with that, I mean, that's a 3/4 ounce weight and a hook just dropping straight down on it, and it's not going anywhere. So I feel pretty good about that not moving, and that'll come into play big time later. I'm going to rig up my plastic just so you guys can see how to do it. Take my little creature hog from earlier, and you're just going to Texas rig this. So all you need to do is just push it straight down. You want to go right before you get to the turn of the hook and stop, and then just push it out like that, sitting on there like that. Then you want to push it up past the keeper. The keeper's right there. You push it up past it, and then you just twist your hook around like that, and then pull it down, because you want to gauge where it's going to go in so it comes back out straight. So you're just going to push it back down in and then slide it up. And then your last step is to kind of gauge that it's going straight, that it looks right. This might be a hair long in my opinion. Wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe cut the top of it off. But I'm going to fish with it and see how I feel about that. Yeah, I think it's a little long. I think I'll just cut it real quick. So it should look like that by the time it's all done. And then if a fish bites it, so he bites it right there, gets hooked right there, and you should have him. And then you're going to push your bead down so it's kind of right on top of it. And then there you have it. So this is a punch rig. Some people just call it a big Texas rig, but that's what it looks like. And that's all you're going to need to really know. And then the weight is just going to slide a little bit and should get you through your heavy cover. Again, this is going to fish your hydrilla, your pads, grass mats, get you through that really heavy stuff that you just can't get through with a Senko or a Texas rig or a jig without getting stuck. So get to the fish that are hardest to get to, should get you guys a couple bites. And now we're going to jump into a live demo. Hopefully I can catch a fish. If not, I'll at least go over where to throw this at and kind of what my targets are fishing this. So thank you guys for watching. But I'm just kind of aiming for any big surface patches that I can see. And this is a rig, you just want this thing to get through, hit the water, go through some heavy vegetation, and hit a fish on the head, that's just sitting below it. As far as weights go, I would say it's important to just know how heavy your rod can throw, and also how heavy of a weight you need to actually get through this stuff. Like I'm throwing a 3/4 ounce weight, which fits with my rod. Like it's an appropriate weight for this rod, but it's probably a little light to get through some of those really big heavy mats of stuff. And that side's in the sun. And this is also, it's a more effective rig from a boat or a kayak because you can get more over the top on them. But again, this is pretty much just a big peg Texas rig. If you have any other questions about this rig, feel free to comment below. Hope this video helped you guys. If you have any questions about the punch rig, feel free to put in the comments.